Hello?
What's up, Mr. Vance?
What's going on, George?
Not
Uh,
much.
what were you doing?
Oh, watching TV.
Oh, okay. There you go. You get some good use out of that Kappa League stuff, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Been working on them shoulders? No, tell the truth.
Yes, sir. A little bit. A little bit. A little bit. Like sometimes, like I listen to some music. Yeah.
Yeah, it hit you, huh?
Yeah.
Uh,
A couple of things before we get to the video.
Good evening, James.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Good to see everybody.
Yeah. Likewise.
Good, good. All right. How's your day?
Been good. Been good. Good. Kind of quiet, but good.
Yeah. Good, good.
I think that's how it's supposed to be these days.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Uh-huh.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Been relaxing, looking at some of these games today.
Trying to. You catch any good ones?
Yeah, man. I caught the Cowboys game. It went down to the wire. It was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty
Did they
good.
pull it out?
They did. Yeah. I wasn't expecting them to, but they finally pulled it out, man.
Yeah, I was afraid to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, it hasn't been looking too good for those fellas lately.
All right. We'll get started in just a second. All right, good evening, Catholic. Show yourselves. Again, good evening, and we're going to go ahead and get started. And as usual, we're going to start with a word of prayer. Father, we come, we thank you for all that you have done. We thank you for this day. We thank you for putting your arms protection around us. We thank you for just being who you are. Lord, we ask you just bless each and every one of us that are on the call, and let the information given be received with an open mind and an open heart. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. First of all, I'd like to thank Brother James Martin for being with us this evening. I know he has a pretty busy schedule, and he's taking the time out to come speak with us about the do's and don'ts on etiquette and probably some things that we're going to learn that you thought you knew. And he's going to tell us what we thought we knew was good etiquette, probably not so good. But he's going to explain all that stuff to us. Just a little bit about our brother Martin. I've got his bio here. James D. Martin II is a professional speaker, author, corporate trainer, and etiquette consultant. He is the founder of J. Dorothy Martin Consulting Known as the Charisma Coach, he partners with companies, organizations, colleges, and universities to provide their employees and students with professional development seminars, career readiness techniques, and personal branding strategies. With years of experience as a speaker and trainer, he has transformed the lives of many individuals, leading them to various levels of personal accomplishments. James is the etiquette instructor for the Boys' Rites of Passage program at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. He is the attire coach for Suits for Sons Incorporated, which is a professional development program for college males. He is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. James is the etiquette consultant for the fraternity Southwestern Province and also an advisor for Guide Right, the fraternity's mentoring program. James has a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Houston. He is the author of the book, The Charisma Principles, 80 Essential Messages for Men. That's just a little bit about our brother James D. Martin. Again, we thank him for being here. And at this time, we're going to turn it over to Brother Martin.
Great. Good evening. Thank you, Brother Vince. I appreciate that glowing introduction. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm looking forward to the information that I'm going to be providing you today. And hopefully the information that you receive will be something that you can use not only now, but in your future, in school and beyond. So the thing about etiquette is it's always important. I know sometimes when you think of this word etiquette, you think of something of the past, this old-timey type of deal, but believe it or not, the use of good etiquette gets you indoors that would normally be blocked for you. So good manners and knowing how to receive information is going to be very beneficial to you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, guys. So what I always like to do when we talk about etiquette, especially dining etiquette, I kind of like to start at the beginning. I don't know how many of you are driving now or in the process of getting your driver's license, things of that nature, but I want to kind of talk about when we talk about dining and going to a restaurant. First of all, we're talking about getting there first, right? So what I mean by that is when you drive up to a restaurant, more than likely, if it depends on what type of restaurant it is, of course. If it's kind of a fancy restaurant, you may have to valet your vehicle. So those of you, if you don't know what valet is, basically it's allowing someone or a company or a business to take your vehicle, park it for you, and then bring it back once you finish your dining experience. So just to kind of let you know how that works, if you haven't experienced it already, typically what you would do, you drive your car to the restaurant, and at that time, the valet service will approach your vehicle. What they will do is they will approach your side of the car, open the door for you, allow you to get out. At that time, basically all you're doing is giving them your keys, and what they'll do is they'll attach a little tag to it with a number on it and allow you to go into the restaurant. And when you come back, you'll provide that tag to them and they'll go and get your vehicle for you. Now, if you happen to have a passenger with you or a young lady you'll be taking out to dinner, they will go over and open her door first, and then they'll come on your side and do the same for you. So expect that, especially if you're going to, like I said, a fine dining experience. So don't want you to be caught off guard. The next thing we want to talk about is you are expected to actually tip this person, right? So lesson number one, always have some cash on you, right? So I know a lot of times we really depend on that credit card or that debit card. Typically, valet services don't take those, they take cash, and you definitely want to be responsible and tip the valet service. So you may ask, how much do I actually tip this guy? I have to give him, I'm not going to shoot him a $20 bill or $50, not at all. It's not, I know you guys are not ballers yet, like Brother Vince, so once you get there, you can probably do it, right? So typically, the tip, when you come out of the restaurant, you tip the person, the valet service, anywhere from $2 to $5. Typically, it's a couple of bucks, maybe $2 or $3, all right? So don't think you have to break the bank to tip this young man or this young lady that's parking your vehicle, but that's kind of typically what you want to expect to tip the valet service, all right? So now you're at the restaurant, right? You're you're walking through the door, especially if you have a young lady with you or a female, the first thing you want to do is what? You want to open that door for her before you walk into that establishment. Number one, hands down, all right? So once you're there, Of course, like I said, you let her in first. But even before that, if it is the type of restaurant that calls for reservations, please make reservations, fellas. There's nothing worse than going to a restaurant, especially if you're on a date and you drive up, they valet your vehicle, you go to the desk, and you don't have reservations, right? So there's not going to be more embarrassing than that. So make sure that you call, and not even an hour before. You want to make sure you want to call that restaurant maybe a day or two before to make reservations, especially if it's someplace that you really want to go and you've been talking this place up, right? So make sure you make reservations. So now we are in the restaurant. And one last thing I want to tell you about entering the restaurant. If you're going with a bunch of your friends, especially your boys, you guys have had a good time, you're entering the restaurant, always enter that restaurant with dignity, okay? You don't want to go in yelling and screaming and talking loud, that type of thing. So you want to make sure, because people are watching you guys, all right? I don't know how many of you are familiar with CNN, cable news network. It's on 24/7, and that's how much people are watching you, 24/7, whether it's face-to-face or virtually. So people are always watching you. So you always have to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward anytime that you're in the public view, all right? So now let's go ahead and get started with what I have here in front of me. This is what you came here for today, so let's go get after it. First thing I want to do is I want to kind of give you a lay of the land, what we have here. Okay, so basically I'm going to move this up a little bit. All right. So basically what we have here is what we call a basic place setting. Now you may see place settings, they may have 4 or 5 glasses, they may have 5 or 6 forks, 3 or 4 knives, spoons, things of that nature. Right. But tonight, for this purpose, we are giving you the basics, just kind of what to look for when you go to just a basic restaurant, all right? So let's pay attention. So first thing we're going to look at is this plate here. This is called your meal plate, okay? This is your main plate, what you're going to eat your main meal off of, all right? Second thing we're looking at is your bread plate, okay? It's going to be at the top left of your meal plate. Next, you're going to have your water glass or water goblet or drink, okay? And it's going to be to the right of your meal plate. Okay, so you have your bread, meal, and water. All right? Next thing, you're going to have 2 forks, fellas, okay? So you have a smaller fork and you have a larger fork. All right? A smaller fork is for, I'm pretty sure you probably know this, is for your salad. Okay? Larger fork is for your meal. So you're going to eat your main meal with this larger fork. Forks go to the left of your meal plate. All right? Now let's move to the right. Right-hand side, you're going to have your knife and you're going to have your spoon. Okay? Knife goes first here next to the plate, and then your spoon goes out further to the right. Now, a little trick, guys. So you may ask, so, what do I use first? Right? So the lay of the land, the way that your utensils are placed on the table pretty much tells you what you're going to have first and which utensils to use first. So the key is to work yourself from the outside in, okay? So typically you see that your salad fork is first on the left. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have your salad first, right? Or let's say you may be having soup first. The spoon from the outside in, you work with the spoon first, okay? And then your meal. So you come in, and now you have your meal fork, and then your meal knife. Everybody got that? All right. So again, work yourself from the outside in. Another way to determine which, so let me kind of back up a little bit. I'm sure you guys have been to banquets, weddings, other types of events, and typically you may be sitting at a round table. So a round table that makes seat 8 to 10 chairs. And this is kind of how I learned, kind of how I first got started with teaching this and keeping everybody from getting embarrassed. So if you're at a round table, the person to your left, there's actually going to be a glass here to your left, right? That's your neighbor's. This is not yours. Remember, your drinks go on what side? The right-hand side. So I learned this in a bad way. So once upon a time, I picked up the glass on my left. And I was about to drink it, and I noticed it wasn't mine because it had lipstick on it. And I know I don't wear lipstick, right? So it was a female's glass next to me on the left-hand side. So from that point on, I said, I have to learn the lay of the land. I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore. So I have to learn what I'm doing and then go on to teach others. So that's how I learned which glass was mine when it comes to your plate set. So I'll tell you a little trick when that comes. So sometimes you may forget, right? You may forget which glass is yours. Thing to remember is this is your space, right? You just come to your hands like this is your space. And the way to remember this is BMW, right? Bread plate, B, M, meal, and then W is your water. So just think of the car, BMW, from left to right, BMW. All right, pretty simple. The other way to determine which is yours, you just kind of do your hand like this. It's not the Kappa sign, right? But this is like a B, and then this is like a D. So you kind of look at it. So B is for bread, and D is for your drink. And that's a good way to determine, remember, which is your bread, you know, what's yours in your space, okay? Now, when you're out eating, you don't want to do this. You want to like bread, drink, you know, kind of do it discreetly underneath the table, right? Just be kind of look at it, all right? So don't make it obvious. Don't make it obvious. All right, fellas, so we have the lay of the land right now. This is our property. This is what we're looking at. Now let's kind of talk about the two styles of dining. So there are two different styles of dining. First, you have what we call the American style, okay? The American style. And then we have the European or continental. Those words are interchangeable, European or continental. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at how to eat the American style, okay? And the key to this is sometimes you'll see a lot of people interchanging. They'll start out the American style way, and then in the middle of their meal, they may change up, do continental. Well, the thing is that while we're here today, most people probably aren't going to use proper etiquette, but we want you to know the right way so that when people look at you and they see you eating a certain way, they'll say, he knows what he's doing. He's been somewhere. He's been taught the proper way. So that's what I'm going to do today. So now, let's talk about the American style of dining. First thing you want to do, I want to show you for sure how to hold your utensils. Very important. Okay. First of all, we don't hold our utensils like this, right? We don't fist them up. We're not cannibals, right? So the first thing we want to do, let's say that we had a nice chicken breast, okay? We have a nice chicken breast. We want to cut that chicken breast. You want to hold your fork kind of at the back of the fork here, and then your knife at the top. And what you're going to do in the American style is you're going to cut your meat once. You're going to place your knife at the top of the plate, switch hands, and then eat. Okay? That's the maneuver of the American style. So, again, we're going to be, and guys, also before we go any further, these little things that you see here on the knife, the sharp ends, they're called tines. T-I-N-E-S, okay? So don't call them teeth, don't call them prongs, they're called tines, T-I-N-E-S, all right? So once you hold your meat down with the tines going down in a downward space, you're gonna cut, put your knife at the top of the plate, switch hands, and then eat, okay? That's your American style, all right? So let's say we're eating, and we are resting now, okay? We want to rest. So we just want to talk a little bit. The way that you rest your utensils on your plate in the American style is you're going to put your knife at the top and your fork at the bottom. So it's going to kind of look like this, okay? It's going to kind of look like that. That's what's called the resting place, okay? The resting place in the American style. Now, once you're done eating for the day, for the evening, morning, lunch, the way that you let your waitstaff know that you're done, you're going to place your knife and your fork in what we call the 10-20 position. All right, so let's look at this. So think of the plate as a clock, and then your utensils are what we call the 10-20 position. Everybody see that? All right, 10-20. So that's the finished position, so that when your waitstaff comes by, they'll say, hey, I know this guy's finished. I can go ahead and take his plate, all right? The American style of dining, that is the American style of resting when you're talking, and then American style of when you're finished and ready for the waitstaff to pick up your plate. All right, so now let's go to what we call the continental or European style of eating. Same way you hold your utensils. But with the European style, basically all you're doing is you're going to cut a piece of meat, and then you immediately can take that to your mouth and eat. So in the European or continental style, you do not have to place your utensils, switch hands. Continental European, you're just going to cut, pick up the meat and eat it with the tines going down, all right? The tines going this way. here, here. All right. And a lot of guys, some of us, like I said, we switch between the American style and continental style. If you're hungry and you're ready to eat, this is the way to go, because you don't have to put anything down, right? You just cut, bam, right here. You're here all day long, right? So that's the quick and easy way. So the resting space, the continental is like this, okay? And then the finished space on the continental, same thing, 10-20, but the tines are going down. So the tines are going down facing the plate, all right? Now, do we do this most of the time? We probably don't. But again, I just want to show you the proper way to do it so people will know that you know what you're doing and know your lay of the land around the dinner table, all right? So we've talked about the American style of dining. We've talked about the continental or European style of dining. The next thing we want to do is talk about the use of your napkin, okay? The use of your napkin. By the way, guys, like I said, this is a basic place setting. You'll see a basic place setting done several different ways. You'll see it like this. Sometimes you may see the napkin out here with a knife, with the forks here on the table. Sometimes you may see it in the middle here, right? So there are a lot of different ways the basic can go, but this is really just kind of the basic of basics. We're gonna leave it there, all right? So now, what do you do with your napkin? There's also napkin etiquette. So the first thing you want to do, when you get to the table, is you want to take your napkin. You want to unfold it. But guys, do not do this. You don't want to take your napkin and do this. No, you don't know how many guys I've seen in the restaurant take a napkin. I mean, what is that going to do? All right? So basically, you're going to unfold it, and then you're going to fold it one time like this. And then just place it in your lap. Okay, so you don't want to take the whole thing and then drape it over your pants. You just want to take it once, fold it once, put it in your lap. We're good to go. All right, so that's the way you would use your napkin at the dinner table. Now, let's say that we have to leave and go to excuse ourselves, go to the restroom or take a phone call, whatever the case may be. What in the world do we do with this napkin, right? So, you do. Number one, you take your napkin, and if your chair has arms on it, you can place it on the arm of the chair, here, or once you get up, you place it on the back of your chair, okay? So you place it on the back and just lay it on the back of your chair, all right? You don't want to take it and put it on the table because you're not finished eating, right? So the napkin shouldn't go into the table until after you eat. So always keep that napkin in your lap, but if you have to excuse yourself from the table, again, you either put it on the arm of the table, or you put it on the back, the arm of the chair, or you put it on the back of the chair, all right? Pretty simple. Other thing with your napkin, guys, you want to make sure, let's just say you have something on your mouth, you need to clean your mouth. What you want to do is you want to take your napkin and you basically just take it and dab your mouth, okay? You don't want to take it balled up and just, start wiping your mouth like this, wiping your lips off. You want to take it in the corner, just dab here, dab here, dab there. That's all it takes. And then gently put it back on your lap. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, but a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people just don't do it. So we're going to get you ready to go. All right. Next thing we want to talk about, any questions, guys? Anything before I go any further? I want to make sure you guys get it. All right.
Well, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I've seen people, and I've probably done it myself, is put that napkin, tuck it up in here.
Yeah, I'm getting to that, but why you said, let me go ahead and address that now. So yeah, guys, this is what he's talking about right here. Never, ever do this unless you're at a seafood restaurant and you're eating lobster and they will give you a bib. Okay, so if there's a restaurant that needs for you to have some type of bib or napkin, they will supply you with that, and then you can place it. But that's in a regular fine dining. I better not see you at a steakhouse and doing this, right? First of all, that, and then this, right? Don't want to see it. All right. All right. Thank you, brother. Yeah. So that's what that does. Now, if you're leaving for the evening or for whenever you're there, you want to take your napkin and just slightly fold it just a little bit and place it to the left of your plate. Okay, to the left of your plate. You don't want to take it and put it in the middle of your plate. Okay, why? First of all, it's just not proper etiquette. Secondly, let's just say you're at an Italian restaurant. Tomato sauce, right? So you have it in here, you have a light type of light colored napkin, you put it in there, more than likely it's gonna get stained, right? And then it's gonna be hard for that restaurant to probably reuse that because it's gonna be all stained, right? And the last thing in regards to napkins, you can, it depends on what type of restaurant it is, you can request a certain color, like a dark napkin or a light napkin. Let's just say you have on a pair of black slacks, right? And you have a light colored napkin. You may ask the waitstaff, would you happen to have a dark napkin, right? That way, when you put it in your lap, you won't get the fuzz and the lint and that type of thing, and vice versa. If you have on like white pants, you know, using a black, or black pants using a white one. So keep that in mind also, all right? So that's the napkin. Next, let's talk a little bit about bread, okay? You probably didn't know, man, that's etiquette bread too. Yeah, we got some bread we're gonna talk about. So I'm gonna move this out of the way. So if you've been to a restaurant before, many times they may bring out what we call community bread or communal bread, and they'll place a basket right in front of you. And it may look something like this. They may grab and they'll put the bread in front of you, right? So you may have rolls in there, you may have a loaf of bread. And typically what they're gonna do, if it's a long loaf of bread, they're gonna have another napkin on top of it, right? Or either this one is gonna be folded over. The reason being is the way that you would take that bread is you would place your hand on the napkin and then break the exposed piece of bread, okay? So you don't want to pull this napkin back, grab the bread with your own hands because everybody has to eat that bread, okay? So basically what you're doing is you're grabbing the napkin just to hold the leverage and then you break the bread, okay? The next thing you do, if you break a nice sized piece of bread, you want to put that bread on where? On your bread plate, okay? So you break off a piece of bread, put it on your bread plate. Now what do? You don't take that whole piece of bread, or even if it's a roll, you just take that roll, put butter on it. You don't slap butter, you're not painting a house, right? You don't put butter all over the bread. You want to take that bread, tear off a bite-sized piece, then you can put your butter on that small piece and eat the bread at that time, okay? So do not take a whole roll or a whole piece of bread and just start biting it, buttering it up and biting it, okay? Always take a nice edible piece, small piece to eat, all right? So the other thing in regards to bread is you wanna make sure that if the bread is sitting in front of you, you wanna take it, right? Offer it to the person to your left first, okay? And then you wanna pass the bread counterclockwise. So if you look at a clock, it's going the opposite way on the clock. So if it's a round table, you're going to pass it counterclockwise. If it gets back to you and there is no more bread left, you can always ask the waitstaff for more bread, okay? So don't think, if you don't, and so in other words, you don't take a piece first. You always offer it to your left and then pass it counterclockwise, and then it comes back to you, all right? All right, so that is our bread. So we go back here. All right, so now let's look at soup. So there's a certain way that you should eat your soup too, fellas. So we want to take a bowl. Okay. Now we have our spoon. This is a soup spoon. So the way that is a proper way to eat your soup. You want to take your spoon and you're going to put it in the soup, and then we're going to do what we call ladle it away from you. So basically what you're doing is you're taking the spoon, moving it away from you and grazing the back of the bowl. So you're going to go in, graze the back of the bowl, and then eat. Okay, so it's like this. Here, graze the back of the bowl, bend and eat. So why are we grazing the back of the bowl? So that there won't be any soup dripping from the spoon. Okay, so it's nothing like taking soup and then you bring it to your mouth and it starts dripping on that nice tie that you have, or a shirt or jacket, or whatever the case may be, right? So you always want to make sure that you get the excess off of the spoon first, and then you take it, all right? So while I'm in this position, the proper way to eat, you just want to bend just a little bit. You don't ever want to be too far back from your plate and from the table. So basically, you want to be about maybe 2 hand lengths away from the table. So you can go to the table and put your hands between the table and your stomach, all right? And that's about the length of time you need to be away from the table. because when you start eating, you are going to be able to bend just a little bit and eat, okay? So when you're eating, you know, you don't want to be down here, guys. No, you don't want to be here. You want to be here, bend a little bit and eat. Bend a little and eat, okay? So that's the way that you eat your soup. Once you're finished, you can just lay your spoon in your bowl and you are done, okay? So soup is pretty simple. The other thing about soup is you don't want to take your soup if it's, you know, piping hot. You don't want to take it, you don't want to be all loud and blow in your soup. I know you probably learned that at home, right? I know I did, blow in your soup. So you want to stir it a little bit and still until it starts to cool, okay? You can taste it a little bit at your lips, but you don't want to be in a nice restaurant blowing the mess out of your soup, okay? So you want to be here, eat, and be done. All right. Okay, we're moving right along. So we have learned so far the American style of dining. Continental European, we learned to do with what to do with your napkins. We have learned some things about bread, how to tear off the bread, how to eat your bread, how to pass your bread. Now let's kind of look at what I call some do's and don'ts, okay? Some major do's and don'ts when it comes to fine dining or eating at the table. So one thing I know that you learned growing up is don't put what on the table? Don't put your elbows on the table. You probably heard that time and time again. Well, let me tell you this, that's absolutely true. But what you can do is you can place the back of your forearms here against the table, right? This is okay. So if you're talking before dinner comes or you're talking, placing your hands here is okay. But you don't want to go here and place your arms on top of the table. Okay, that's rude in regards to etiquette. Okay, so always want to keep those elbows completely off of the table. Next thing, if someone asks to pass the salt, proper etiquette says you pass both the salt and the pepper at the same time, okay? More than likely, they may want to season it with pepper later, so you always grab those items, pass them both to that particular person. Now, let's say they ask you to pass it and it's way across the table, and you're at a table with a group of individuals. Very rude to reach across anybody's plate to grab any type of items, okay? Not just salt and pepper, it could be anything. So basically what you do is you politely ask that person to the left, to your right, or that person on the other side of the table to pass those items, and then they will begin to pass them to the person next to them until those items get to you, okay? So pass the salt and pepper together and don't reach across the table. One of the other things you want to look at is you always want to pass, let's just say you have a container of tea, a pitcher of tea or water or whatever the case may be. Many times, if it's been sitting there for a while, there's condensation on the outside of that container or that pitcher, right? So you want to make sure, let's just say this is the pitcher of water and it has a handle on it. Your responsibility, if someone asks you to pass it, you take what we call the smooth side, the bowl side, and pass it to that person so they can actually grab the handle itself, okay? All right, because you don't want them to be embarrassed if you hand it to them, if you take the handle and pass it with the smooth side and they drop it, it's embarrassing for them, okay? So you want to take the responsibility on yourself, secure it yourself, and pass it to them so they can easily grab the handle themselves, all right? Next thing, let's see, let's look at, let me go back a little bit. Another thing you learned, when you're eating, especially finger foods, you don't lick your fingers. I've seen people lick every finger on their hand, right, once they're eating things. So they eat something and I know it's good, guys, but that's what's for. That's what this little baby's for right here. So you want to make sure you use this whenever you need to, okay, very important. So the other thing we want to look at is you always want to make sure when you get to the table, you don't want to put your phone, your glasses, your keys. There shouldn't be anything on that table other than what was there when you got there, okay? So you don't put anything extra on the table when you are going to eat at a fine dining restaurant, all right? The other thing when you're dining, you always want to make sure that you either cut off your phone or put it on vibrate. Again, you're there with someone, especially if you're there with someone else, of course, you want to make sure that you're giving that person or those persons your undivided attention. So you don't want to be interrupted by a phone call. Like I said, you can put it on vibrate because you may be expecting a call. It could be something important, all right? So when it comes to that, that brings me to my next point. if you have to leave the table, whether it's to grab a phone call, whether it's to go to the restroom, all you have to say is, excuse me, right? You don't have to announce why you're leaving, where you're going, any of that information. A simple excuse me, I'll be right back. That's all you need to do, okay? Keep your conversations clean. What do I mean by that? Keep your conversations clean. If you were sick the night before, people don't need to know all the details of what you went through, what type of medicine you took, how long you were in the restroom, those things. Nobody needs to know all that when you're eating, right? So you always want to make sure that you keep your conversations clean. That includes foul language, right? Those types of things. So again, this is all about, we're talking about gentleman's etiquette. And in order to be a gentleman, you have to adhere to certain protocols. And part of that is being respectful of the people that are around you and respecting yourself also. Because if you don't respect yourself, no one else at that table otherwise will. So again, always remember that. Do not, it's all gone, guys. There's nothing else left on the plate. There's nothing there, all right? So if you have to do this, that means it's all in the stomach, right? It's there, all right? So what that does, you know, first of all, it's rude, but then if you're in a restaurant, you can hear that, right? People next to you or across the room can hear that. So always remember, you have to think about, you know, I'm not at home. Okay, some things you may do at the house, you absolutely cannot do out in public. So always remember those items. The other thing is once you use your utensils, they should never touch the table again. So if you use your fork, you want to keep it on your plate, or your knife, keep it on the plate. You never eat with it and put it back on the table, okay? It's unsanitary. And then again, just like the napkin, if it's a nice white tablecloth or something, you're putting food stains back on that table. So you definitely want to make sure you don't do that. We don't brush, comb, sponge our hair at the table, okay? None of that. So this, okay, I know you want to keep those waves tight, right? You want to keep those, I had them back in the day, but you know, they're gone now. But I had them, you know, I like to used to brush my hair all the time, but you know, that's just rude because the hair particles can get on your plate and then it can fly on somebody else's plate. And again, it's just really unsanitary. So when you make sure you want to watch that, make sure you're good and clean, fresh and clean before you get to the restaurant so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so this is a big one, guys. If there are issues with your food, let's just say the waitstaff brings out your food and it's cold. What do you do? First of all, you are not rude to the waitstaff. It's not their fault, right? So do not be rude to the waitstaff. I always tell people, if you're rude to the waitstaff, they say, okay, very nicely, let me bring you more food. If you're extremely rude to them, they may bring it back with something that wasn't on the menu, right? They can spit in it, they can drop stuff on the floor and put it back in your plate. There's lots of things they can do if you are rude to them. So there's no need to be rude. People make mistakes, things happen. So you have to keep that in mind when you are dealing with your waitstaff at a restaurant. Okay, you don't have control over that, but you do have control of asking them to bring you back food that's warm or something like that. So, and you don't make a scene, okay? If you're with people, you don't make a scene. You don't, again, you have to respect yourself. And then if you're with someone, if one of your friends is there and they're making a scene, step up, tell them they're not doing the right thing, they're doing the wrong thing, calm down. Again, you are the gentleman in this case, and you want to make sure that you show that you are a gentleman in all aspects of your dining experience, all right? So, again, please don't be rude. If you have utensils and you happen to drop a utensil on the floor, 9 times out of 10, basically, as a gentleman, we just want to pick it up, right? So typically that's okay, but let's just say your fork or something falls under the table all the way under. You don't want to get down on your hands and knees, crawl under the table and grab that utensil. You would get the attention of your waitstaff and have them to bring out new utensils, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. First of all, you apologize for your blunder, and then you politely ask them to bring you another fork or spoon or knife or whatever the case may be, whatever you may need to finish your meal for that particular time, right? So, summoning your waitstaff, if you need to get to the attention of your waitstaff, you want to make sure it's all about eye contact, right? Eye contact, you just, kind of raise your hand maybe and make eye contact and let them know that you need them. You don't pick up your glass no matter what you've seen on the movies, right? Don't do that. It's not appropriate for etiquette. You're not getting anyone's attention by doing that. You're just making yourself look bad. So again, it's all about making contact with eye contact with that person to ensure that they make that eye contact back with you, and you can get what you need at that particular time. All right. Any questions so far? Brother Vince, any guys? Got a couple more things? We're good?
We good.
All right, we're good. All right, so you also, just like I said, when you're coming into the restaurant, you want to make sure that when you're sitting down at the table, you don't want everyone at the table next to you or across the restaurant to know your conversation. Case in point, took my wife out to the restaurant not too long ago, and we were sitting there eating, and there were like maybe 10 or 12 individuals at the table next to us. We knew everything about their lives before we left that evening, right? We knew they were talking about who just got out of jail, who did this, who did that, what happened. I mean, we knew it. I mean, we could just clearly, it's almost like we were on the telephone with them talking back and forth. So my point is, make sure that when you're in a restaurant, you keep the conversation at like they tell the small kids, use your inside voice. That's what you need to do at a restaurant. Use your inside voice and make sure, again, you're a gentleman and keeping it, just going by proper protocol when you're in those dining establishments, all right? Let's see, you wanna make sure that you don't, again, old school, don't chew with your mouth open, right? You always wanna make sure you close your mouth when you're eating. And talking about that, when you're eating your food, you wanna make sure that you don't scrape the food off with your teeth, okay? We shouldn't hear your teeth scraping the fork or the spoon. You wanna take the food off of your utensil with your lips, okay? So you don't want to go here and scrape it off, all right? Again, very unetiquette-like, I guess that's a word, but you want to make sure, again, you keep it really smooth, guys, okay? So, and again, when we're talking about this, I have to keep saying this because you may, once you go back out to the restaurant, you're going to look around and you're going to see people doing all types of things. So more than likely, they haven't been to an etiquette workshop. It's no fault of theirs, but again, you want to make yourself stand out, okay? I always say, don't just stand out in the crowd, be the reason the crowd is gathered. That's my little thing. That's a tweet, man. That's a tweet, all right? So make sure that you always stand out in the crowd. And it's not about being conceited at all. It's about being convinced on who you are, and literally, no pun intended, but what you bring to the table, right? What you bring to the table. So I want to make sure you guys are fully equipped with everything. Other than that, guys, I just want to make sure that you understand the importance of proper etiquette, when to use it. Now, if you're going to McDonald's, Burger King, places like that, things may change a little bit, right? I'm not telling this, I mean, because first of all, they're all finger foods, typically. Typically, you're eating the burgers with your hands and fries, things of that nature. Now, even though you're still eating those things with your hands, you still don't want to lick your fingers. You have paper napkins. So you definitely want to make sure you use your paper napkins, okay? So let's talk about when you're leaving the restaurant. I've already told you when you leave the restaurant, you want to slightly fold your napkin, place it to the left of your plate, okay? But before that, you have to be nice to your wait staff and tip your wait staff, right? So always leave a tip, and we're going to talk about good service and bad service also, but typically your tip is anywhere, it starts at 15%. It used to be 10%. I tried to hang on to that 10% a long time, but it's 15%, 15%, 15 to 20%, and excellent service, more than that. So 15 to 20%. Proper etiquette says you tip on the pre-tax amount. Some people tip on the taxed amount. That's typically what I do. But proper etiquette says you would tip on the pre-taxed amount. So before everything is taxed, that's the amount that you actually tip on, okay? Now, let's say you get bad service. So bad service, the tip would actually, it would go down. So, I don't believe in giving a full tip to someone who was very rude to me, very impatient, didn't look after my needs while I was there. So I would still give a tip because that's how these folks eat, right? They're paid a lower wage, but they look forward to those tips. So, you can go down to 10%. The lowest proper etiquette says go down to about 8%. But again, just because you need to tip and they gave bad service doesn't mean you have to give them a full 20%, 15 to 20% tip, okay? But otherwise, yes. All right, again, it's their job. They're there to serve you, and you want to make sure that you provide them with the proper tip they need in order to do so, all right? What should you wear to a fine dining restaurant? Well, guys, things have changed, right? When I used to go to, back in the day, we wanted to dress up, that type of deal. I know now things have changed, right? So my suggestion to you is always go dress the way you want to be remembered, all right? Dress the way, and that's in any aspect of anything. Dress the way you want to be remembered. Let's just say you're going to a nice high-priced steakhouse, right? You want to dress appropriately. I know you can wear jeans now, dress jeans, blazer, jacket, things of that nature, but I wouldn't wear shorts to a nice, restaurant, anything like that. So you want to be presentable. So that's what I'm really trying to say. Make sure that you are presentable when you're in the, so just think about, how am I going to look to others? Because there's nothing like going into a restaurant, nice restaurant, and you walk in and everybody's dressed nicely and you come in shorts, right? Old t-shirt with holes in it, baseball cap, all right? So another suggestion I always give guys when they're going to restaurants like that is look up the restaurant online. A lot of times they'll have a photo gallery and they'll show you pictures of people, how they're dressed and things of that nature. So kind of take a hint in regards to that. Speaking of looking online, I'll also suggest, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. You guys probably are interviewing right now for jobs, and because, I say that because a lot of times jobs will take you on a dinner interview, right? And I highly suggest that if you know, and you're going to know where you're going, so I highly suggest look up that restaurant online, find out some things about it, mostly what's on the menu, okay? Look at the menu before you go there. Typically, more than likely, that menu is going to be listed online. Why would you do that? You want to go because you don't want to sit at the table, especially if it's your potential boss, right? And you have no clue what you want. And the waitstaff comes over and you're looking at the menu and they're asking, are you ready to order? And you're like, no, just, give me a minute. They come back 5 minutes later, I'm still undecided. So you want to know what you're doing. You don't want to embarrass yourself and look unprepared, right? Because they're going to think the same thing. If you're unprepared at the dinner table, they're going to think you're unprepared and not on top of your game when you are ready to work for them. So they're looking for different things. They're not only looking to see, about your job history and what you can do, but they're looking at how you handle yourself in different situations when it comes to those dinner. All right. So very important information. So again, make sure you're dressed properly and your conversations at the table. I talked about that before. But then let's go a little further with that. If you're, what type of conversations do you have? Again, proper etiquette says that you always kind of leave out religion, politics, things of that nature. Anything that could be decisive topics, divisional topics. So that may divide you in your thoughts about certain things. So you definitely want to leave those things alone. You can talk about, other types of current events, especially if you're on a date. You want, first of all, always compliment the lady, all right? Always. Kappa leaders, you need to know that, right? Always compliment young ladies when you're taking them out. Other things you talk about, have you been here before? What I like on them, talk about what you may like on the menu. You've been there before. So there's certain things you can talk about where it won't get you into that gray area where you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that, okay? So again, make sure that your conversations are clean. Make sure you are always a gentleman. I didn't say this before, but it's not old school. It's, it's a proper thing to do. The lady at the table, you want to pull out the chair for the lady to sit. Now, she may look at you crazy, right? Because she may not be used to that type of treatment from a gentleman, but you do it anyway, right? Because you are a gentleman. If she says that's okay, that's okay. That's definitely fine. You don't want to force her to do anything she doesn't want to do. But as a gentleman, it is your responsibility to do that, okay? Because it's proper and it's the right thing to do. They will look at you later and say, oh, he was a gentleman. They go back and talk to their friends and their girlfriend and say, oh, he was such a gentleman. He did this and pulled his chair out for me and that type of thing. So again, always keep being a gentleman, job one. All right? Any questions, guys?
Brother Martin.
Yes, sir.
I kind of want to just drive one of the things that you said home, and that's on that job interview, that dinner interview. There's nothing more embarrassing than going to a job interview and a dinner and not knowing what utensil to use and what utensil to use first. That is so important because again, they're watching you, you're watching them just to see how much you know. Not only for that particular job, but out in a dinner setting, because you may be taking a client out someday and you need to know these things. You need to know that type of etiquette. So I just kind of wanted to drive that home.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really big deal because, like I said, they're looking for more than just to talk about at that dinner interview. They're looking at more than the job itself, what you're going to be doing in the job. They're looking at how you treat the wait staff. Yeah, they're looking at how you treat the wait staff. They're looking at, again, how you handle yourself at the table. You know, what are you doing? Do not ever take doggy bags away from the table. You know, if you're at a dinner interview, you don't want to take a to-go thing unless, you know, a lot of times you follow the host, right? Most of the time you follow what the host does. But let's just say the host doesn't do that. You don't want to take it. You know, a lot of people say don't eat all of your food. You know, that's been an argument back and forth with etiquette. You know, I say that's, you know, eat your food. That's what you're there for. Eat your food. Now, you want to pace yourself. Now, you don't want to eat up all your food and then everybody else finishes 15 minutes later, right? So you want, while you're eating, you want to make sure you're kind of scoping out everything, pacing, seeing how everybody is pacing themselves, so that way you can kind of stay in line with everybody else is doing, right? Yeah. And then have a conversation, not with just the person next to you, to your left and your right. You want to have conversations with, you know, different people around the table. Okay, so you just kind of want to spread yourself and let everybody know that you're engaged, and that's what it's all about: being engaged and being a you know, a person that you want to sit down and break bread with, in so many words, and be able to eat with and enjoy that meal with. Okay. But again, it's all about respect, and it's all about, like I said, not only respecting yourself, but respecting others. And that's what etiquette is really all about. It's just being able to respect, have other people to respect you based on the things that you do on a daily basis. Okay? That's basically what it is. All right?
Brother Martin,
Yes, sir.
what if you have to burp?
Good job. So if you have to burp, again, you want to make sure that you utilize this napkin, right? And same thing with sneezing, coughing, right? You want to take it. If you have to burp, now, sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes they come out. We don't know when they're coming, right? That's the bad part. But when you feel it coming on, you want to take, cover your mouth and turn your head. Especially with a sneeze or something like that, always get your napkin. And if you need another napkin, always do what? Ask your waitstaff for another napkin. The other thing that is despicable, guys, you probably know where I'm going with this napkin, is blowing your nose in your napkin. Never blow your nose at the table in your napkin. I'll tell you what happens. All right, perfect example. I'm here, something's in my nose, I'm blowing my nose, put it back in my lap. I'm eating, I feel something on my mouth. What do? Pick up this napkin and I start wiping my mouth, right? Never, ever blow your nose in the napkin. It's unsanitary. It's not proper etiquette. If you need to blow your nose, what do? Excuse me. You don't say what? Excuse me, I need to go blow my nose. You say, excuse me, go to the restroom, take care of your business, and make sure that you come back, okay? While you're in there, make sure that you're still tight, fellas. Make sure everything is good, right? You always want to make sure that you're looking good and you're presentable, all right? Key to a gentleman, what a gentleman does. It's key, it's key.
What about, Brother Martin, after the dinner is over, and I see it all the time, flossing, toothpicks.
Yeah.
What's your advice on that?
No, do it in privacy. If you need to go to, again, excuse yourself, go to the restroom. So yeah, good point. You never want to take a toothpick and just kind of sit back, right? I see guys doing it all the time. Then they get the drink, you know, they're drinking. And then have the nerve to, you know, spit it out in the plate. No, right. So flossing, anything personal, like I said, everything from brushing your hair, combing your hair, blowing your nose, picking your teeth, things of that nature, all of that belongs outside the realm of the dinner table itself. All right. So hopefully, again, this is just going to be some good information, and I call this foundational information. Really, it's just kind of just a good foundation on knowing the basics of what to do. Like I said, you're going to see many different setups, you know, other than basic. You're going to see formal setups, which is going to have lots of things. You're going to have dessert forks, dessert knives, dessert spoons. You're going to have, you know, white wine, red wine glasses, tea glasses, cocktail forks. I mean, you could have all of that now. That's going to be an extravagant type of event. You're not going to see that at just a regular restaurant. But again, I want to make sure that you have the basics down. The last thing, when you're drinking, guys, people, some young men have asked me all the time, do you hold out your pinky when you're drinking your water? No. Grab it like a man, right? You hear, just drink your water, just basic. There's nothing special about it. You want to do this. There's nothing, extravagant about that. Royal family-ish about it. Nothing like that. You want to make sure that you're just sticking to the proper guidelines and protocol. So looking at everything, I believe I've covered everything that I wanted to cover in regards to your dining styles, what you do with your napkin, soup, bread, some basic do's and don'ts. And again, just make sure that you have the charisma that you need, fellas, because again, people are always looking at you. They always want to know, they're looking at you to slip up, right? They're looking at you to make a mistake. The real thing about that is we all do, right? But it's how we bounce back from it. Because if we know better, we do better. If we do better, we look better. And when we look better, we perform better. And that's the bottom line, because when we perform good, that's what matters, right? In all aspects of everything that we do. All right. That's it, but I do want to leave one thing with you. I mentioned charisma, right? So a lot of times when I speak, I talk about this word charisma, and there's a little bit more behind this word than what meets the eye. So this word charisma, if you have to look it up in the dictionary, it's going to say something. There's like a certain allure, certain devotion or attraction that people have to you or someone. What I've done, I'm a basketball fan. I love basketball, especially when it comes to college basketball. So you have Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, but I call this my Elite 8 attributes of charisma. And this is something that I want you guys to take in and utilize. So you'll see once I give you, I've used an acronym, CHARISMA, charisma. And you'll see once I give you the acronym, the meanings, how it flows back into having charisma. So the C stands for cultivating relationships, okay? Very important to build relationships, okay? Cultivate just really means to grow. So don't just meet someone, grow that relationship. You never know what they may be able to do for you, but you never know what you may be able to do for them, all right? The H stands for humbleness. Always be humble, guys. There's no need for conceit, all right? I'm being stuck up in this world. Always be humble. The A stands for attitude. You may have heard your attitude determines your altitude, how high you fly in life. So always keep a good attitude. The R, we talked about this several times, respect. Respect yourself and respect others. The I stands for initiative. Never wait on someone else to do something. Always take it upon yourself to reach out and try to do some things first, right? Don't wait to be asked to do something, right? Take initiative. The S in the word charisma stands for self-development, and that's exactly what you're doing here tonight. You're helping to develop yourself, not just relying on what you learned in school, but go online and learn some things, read, take some other classes. Always develop yourself. The M, manners. We're talking about this. Basic manners opens doors, fellas. I tell you, I've done it, I've lived it, and I've realized it. Okay, so basic manners open doors. And then finally, the last A stands for appearance. Always make sure you're together, guys. I'm not saying you have to be suited and booted and a tie when you're going to the grocery store, but make sure that you are presentable. A good example is, let's just say you had an interview the day, let's just say on a Monday you had an interview, right? And you were all dressed up, looking good. Tuesday morning, you need to go to the grocery store. You're in line at the grocery store. You decided to just throw on some old sweats, t-shirt with lots of holes in it. Your hair is not combed, matter in your eyes. You're at the line checking out, and lo and behold, you turn around behind you. It's the person that interviewed you the day before. Think about that, right? So that's what I mean. Just always be presentable, because you never know who's looking at you. All right. So if you take all those acronyms, put it back into that word charisma, a certain allure that attracts devotion. When you have all those things, people are going to want to be like you. They're going to walk like you, talk like you, have mannerisms like you, and build those relationships like you. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you've learned some good nuggets and tools and information that you can carry on with you, not only tomorrow, next week, but for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Brother Martin. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Anybody else have any questions? Man, what an awesome presentation. And I have to admit, Brother Martin, I've made many of those etiquette blunders, probably recently. But I'm more aware, most definitely now, to not make those mistakes any longer. So again, thank you very much. So on behalf of Columbus alumni, Mississippi State Eta Upsilon, and the Kappa League, we thank you. And we will be sending you something to show our appreciation for you taking your time out and spending it with us. And hopefully in the future, when things get better, we're looking to have a battalion or something like that where we can practice these principles in life, real life form, and have you down here. We'll send for you and have you walk us through it live. So hopefully you'll be open to doing something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But again, we thank you. Any other advisors have anything to say, or we have our guide right director Rodney Johnson. He's on. I don't know if he'll be able to say a word or not. He has a newborn, but
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just, like you said, yeah. Thank you again for that. Why he let me get a word in, but yeah, I too got a lot from this tonight. So thank you again.
Great. Welcome. Welcome.
All right. Anything else? And Brother Martin, I'm sure we'll be talking. But again, thank you so much. It was very much appreciated and needed.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Anytime.
All right. If that's all, everybody have a good night. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.